Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore. We are Baltimore Positive, positively getting the holidays out with the Crab Cake Tour. I'm excited. The Maryland Lottery is giving me Raven scratch-offs to give away. We will also have candy cane scratch-off. They're going to, my bag's going to smell like Santa Claus at East Point Mall. I'm going to love it. 6 locations now to check out, starting and our friends with Costas on the 18th for my rock and roll Christmas with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Gina Shock, amongst others. It is the baseball winter meetings this week. They were held in this area a couple of years ago down in National Harbor. They moved them around. Lots and lots of media folks go and wannabe media folks, and really a lot of people around the fringe of baseball and analytics were always sort of nerding out, wanting to be a part of it, and lots of people in the agent space trying to get billionaires to give them multi-million dollar contracts. Eric Fisher's been my friend for a couple of decades, going back to the Washington Times and Sports Business Journal. I'm going to let him tell you all about his current work because it's exciting for me anytime I get people on who really focus on the business of sports and the offseason. But more than that, you're a baseball nerd like me. So
Yep.
we really dig into baseball, although you could do all sorts of different high end of television media revenue, which is where baseball is going with work stoppage next year. But Oriole fans sit here and want to get a little bit more educated. And you and I have been at this since Angelo started suing Masson in 2005, and the
Yeah.
Montreal Expos were still playing in Olympic Stadium. How are you? How is your off season going? And we're sort of into a new generation of not investigating Masson and all that at this point and trying to figure out what the Orioles are going to be. But it's a fascinating offseason in Major League Baseball. Eric, welcome back, man.
Without question, there's a lot going on because you correctly point out we've got a labor situation coming up. We're about 363 days now from the expiration of the current labor deal, December 1st of next year. Their talks are going to begin in earnest probably after the holidays, moving into spring training and the beginning of the season. And there's big issues at play, and potentially a reformation of the economic system. We got a media landscape that's rapidly changing, and the league just did a handful of short-term deals to try to hedge against that. There's a lot going on.
All right, let's start with the Orioles, and then we'll work
Yep.
into Lords of the Realm. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to bore people to death, but because all they really care about is who are we signing, and Ryan Helsley, and are they,
It's all about the local fandom. I get it.
yeah, dealing Grayson Rodriguez for an outfielder who they hope hits 30 home runs this year, and they signed one last year for $20 million a year that they were hoping the same thing for. So it's been a really curious offseason so far, all the way around to the press conference with Mike Elias, with the old manager who knew he was getting fired. Just really weird corporate optics about Katie Griggs and the kind of letters that I get from people who used to work from her anonymously. And just I'm paying attention to all of it, including Katie Griggs, who's speaking to the Connects group on Elvis's birthday, where I'm signed up for a breakfast to hear her speak to 300-400 Baltimore business owners. They're trying to sell the game here, Eric. And part of selling the game, when I talk to Luke, who reports, is just give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball, sign a pitcher, make team better, make team better. I don't think that moves tickets at all. It doesn't move bobbleheads. It doesn't move any of that, but it does move some sort of consumer confidence for people outside of town like you or people inside of town like me to say, is this different than Angelos? What is this? What are the Orioles? What do they want to be when they grow up?
Yeah, and that's the thing. And this is the thing that we were wanting everybody around baseball at the end of the Angelos era, and certainly now into the Rubenstein era, was a consistent commitment from ownership to invest in a sustained winner, and not a one-year thing, but a continued sustained investment in a sustained winner. And we didn't see that at the end of the Angelos era, and I haven't seen it from the Rubenstein era. I have to be frank, I think it's been a bit of a profound disappointment that we expected a new day with this franchise, and it doesn't feel like a new day. They seem like they're just kind of limping along while the economic powers of the league are racing farther ahead in front of them. And it's also important to note that the rest of the AL East is getting very serious in a big hurry. That really the story of baseball right now, yes, the Dodgers are the back-to-back champions. The Blue Jays They're for real, and they're going hardcore here because they have the entire country of Canada as their market, and Rogers Communications, which owns the team, they're making sports really a focal point of their entire corporate
They're the Dallas
operation.
Cowboys of Canada, kind of,
A
and
hundred
I shouldn't
percent.
say that because hockey's the Dallas Cowboys of Canada. Like literally, but I was there on opening day last year, Eric. So freezing my ass off, I cut my foot open,
Well, I was
but
there for the World Series. It was incredible to see how this team is just completely, the whole country, how the city of Toronto and the country has embraced this team. It's like few things I've ever seen.
well, I mean, and let's go to. By the way, Eric Fisher, tell me where you're working now, what you're doing, how people can find you, because it's very important now that Masson has at least been settled. There's no more lawsuit. That at least we
Yep.
keep you in scope here,
Yeah.
because
So I'm with
You were my Masson insider.
yeah, well, and we still have mass and questions out there because we got to figure out what the Nats are going to do now that they're a free agent out in the market. But I'm with Front Office Sports now, and we are a multi-platform media organization covering the business of sports. We're about 10 years old now, growing like a weed, which is a great thing in the media business right now. I'm on our newsletter team, but we've got a website, a podcast. We're getting into live events. We're doing a bunch of different things. And like I said, we're at that intersection of sports, business, and culture.
All right, so for my audience, they know I'm an old fart, right? I've been doing this a long time, and I go back to being on the radio in the 80s and 90s talking about selling tickets. And Camden Yards gets built and its sponsorships and club seats and then I bought a radio station and I actually sat with Joe Foss back in the day about rights fees and what BAL was willing to pay. And then, of course, the owner comes in and F's up John Miller. So the
Yep.
broadcast become awful, doing despicable things at every turn the owner did here. But the sport itself really got well when ESPN and Nesson and the Yes Network and Fox Sports started funding all of this. This is how the Expos wound up in DC. It's why Angelos fought to steal all the Masson money, which he did hundreds of millions of dollars a year every year for years and years and years coming off of cable television. That they have found these pots of money above and beyond selling tickets in the beginning and selling some beers at the ballpark and milking the cow and whatever, having a promotional night to sell tickets in the Bill Veeck era to I don't know if they know what their product's going to be. They think it's winning baseball. They think it's ticket sales, beer, parking, land ownership around batteries, but the media part of this has sustained this thing and grown this thing this century for a quarter of a century for sure. And it's drying up badly, especially with the Sinclair boys here down the street, waving the Trump flag. And I I don't see anything in Katie Griggs's eyes or Rob Manfred's eyes that could explain to somebody smarter than me like you how it works, how it's going to work, the way it's going to work, where the business model is, and we have a potential work stoppage next year. And the Orioles are in the middle of this. And I keep marrying the concept, Eric, and tell me that I'm wrong because these guys are so rich. Oh, they're so rich. It doesn't matter. They make it rain up in his MFer. Feels to me like when you come in and you give John Angelos $1.8 billion to go play, games in Nashville, that when you're that deep in $1.8 billion into your money and the thing's not throwing off money and you don't have a business plan and you don't have a star player and you don't have fans in your stadium and there's another team 35 miles away, that like when I look at the Orioles ledger sheet and you want them to spend, and everybody's like, I want it to feel different. It'll feel different if they give a pitcher $200 million if they would have done that with Corbin Burns last year. And I'm thinking, where's the money coming from? Because that's the thing I never seem to hear from any of them other than we used to get 80 million, 90 million a year from our TV rights and all that. Now they're making it up on the fly. And I think one thing that Rubenstein's people, first of all, I don't think they were naive. I know they were naive because I've met them and I've talked to them about all sorts of things they were naive about. But maybe even the work stoppage coming their way, which Angelos was naive about that 35 years ago, too. But for me, not having players and money tethered to how we're going to make that money is really problematic for bean counter billionaires who are Arrighetti and Rubenstein are saying, well, okay, well, I'll put this in, but how are we going to make money around here? Where are these premium ticket holders that we're throwing everybody out of the Jim Henneman press box for? That's where I'm sitting is I keep asking day after day, where's the money coming from? And the fans are like, just sign a pitcher, sign a pitcher. And I keep going back to the business head in me saying, where's their business model as a sport, as a local entity, as a media entity?
Yeah, it's a fair question. I do think, though, that some of those direct revenue lines, even the ones that are in transition, that attendance, those media rights, even though that's becoming much more of a direct to consumer kind of thing, you're not just getting money from everybody, whether or not they watch the games, you're now getting that media money directly from your fans. A lot of that would just get better if they, again, would win for more than 1 year and prove that they were like seriously in it. That's number one. But I do think number two, this deal with the state to renovate the ballpark and then go on to sort of a phase two with a mixed use development. The Braves, I mean, we see their numbers because they're publicly traded. The battery and the real estate portion is so crucially important. They're making north of $700 million a year. They were north of 300 just in this last quarter, which is the heart of the season, the
They were
June
given
to
a
September
neighborhood,
quarter.
man. I mean, completely different kind of deal,
A
right?
hundred percent, but they can move in that the Orioles could move in that direction. So you get a sustained winner on the field, and you get some of that ancillary development income coming in. I still think it's viable. I don't think it's a lost cause, but I mean, after 20 years of losing slash mediocrity, I think it's fair for a lot of fans out there to be skeptical as to, again, what is the long-term commitment? Because it's not really the fans' responsibility to prop this up hell or high water necessarily. It's a two-way street. It's not all on the fans here.
Well, the 1.8 billion going in is a real freaking number, right, Eric? I mean, I'm
Oh
not
yeah,
like
yeah.
everybody I talk to is way smarter than me. They're like, yeah, Rubenstein runs around like he's got the Magna Carta and all. He's a billionaire. Yeah, money's no object. I don't know, man. I don't think he loves baseball that much. You know what I'm saying? Like literally. And rich guys didn't get rich by throwing money around like that, especially with tender arms that blow out. And I mean, they've already made some curious baseball moves that we can get to in a minute as well. But I'm always more concerned about where their real intentions are about profit versus expense, where this is coming from. And I always say, where's the idea? Where's the idea that's going to make it the battery? Where's the idea that's going to get people down? Squirting people in the outfields, what they've come up with. And that was an Angelos holdover, right? Like bobbleheads for the owner. They have their promotional schedule out already now, trying to get people to buy things for Christmas and whatnot. And I don't they don't have anything in the stocking, to your point, right? I mean, to recommend their last place team, they were down a 500,000 people last year, interest level. And what I'm sure you know, being a astute business guy, they've pissed off everybody with their Birdland membership. They've angered their primary core fans, and they've been banning people on social media for speaking out about it. Like
Yeah, and
literally,
again,
it's
there's
been
a
mindless. This is in the last 3 weeks, man.
yeah, there's a real retail politics level to this. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. There was a great model out there to learn from in terms of the Astros and the Cubs. And when those new ownerships came in, Jim Crane and Tom Ricketts, respectively, they went out to every function you could think of, every chamber of commerce. They were basically at the opening of a door. Come with us on this journey. We're going to suck for a while, but then we're going to get good. We need you. Please come with us along the way. And then they ended up winning World Series. I've not seen anything like that in your town.
Eric Fisher is here. He is with Front Office Sports. They do the business of sports. So the work stoppage and the problems, and you said they're going to start negotiating. I remember that when it was, Alan Trammell and Lou Whitaker back in the day, right? So Mark Belanger was another, a guy on the Union Trail here, and Brooks,
Yep.
everybody. I've been through the history of all this from Lords of the Realm. I got, I was on the radio in the summer of 1994 talking about Joe Smith instead of talking about Cal Ripken. Um, how's this going to play out in your mind? Like what will we be talking about in April and then again in July and August and September? What's at the root of this other than breaking the union, which is always kind of at the root of it, right?
Well, I think really the first issue, a lot of this, Rob Manfred's at the commissioner of baseball, he's really at the center of this, that the union is very aligned and unified as they always are, that they do not want a cap and they see a cap, a salary cap, as a restraint on compensation. And they've been against this for 60 plus years, the entire history of their organization. So they're very clear. And they feel and they fear that the owners are going to propose a salary cap again, and they've unsuccessfully done this multiple times in the past. But the issue with ownership this time around is we have a real sort of hawk and dove division, that you've got some hardliners out there that say the time is right, there's too much salary and competitive disparity. This is the time where the cap's finally got to happen. And then you've got some doves on the other side of ownership that are saying, writ large, and sort of put the Baltimore issues to the side, across baseball, attendance is up, viewership is up, a lot of other measures of fan affinity are up, particularly in the markets that have Otani and Judge and Paul Skeens and Ellie De La Cruz and folks of that sort. Writ large, global interest is growing. There's a lot of good things happening in baseball. And there is a group of owners who don't want to upset that gravy train right now. And so, how Rob Manfred sort of coalesces all of that and comes up with something that he can propose and sell to the players, that's really kind of where we are right now. And that's going to be a big part of what the next 6 months or so look like.
Is there any circumstance where there could be a salary cap and a floor where there would be guaranteed money spent, which, I mean, come on, Eric. The problem here hasn't been the Yankees or the Dodgers in a real picture, other than the Garden of
No, it's
Eden,
the
where it's
Pirates and the
imbalanced.
Rockies
It's
and people at
always
the
it's
other end.
always been the people taking the money and
Right.
pocketing it. Some of them are out of the game now. It's been 20, 25 years since the system was put in to be a luxury tax, to welfare for the poor teams that always remain poor somehow. I don't smell anything about that would change, other than saying if you want to be in Major League Baseball, you're going to spend between 125 and 225 million dollars a year, or some number where you can't come in and spend 34 million dollars like the Orioles did a couple years ago and say this is Major League Baseball.
So, looking at the other leagues, they all have caps, but basically they came about in two ways. Most instances, it was by breaking the union, and things like hockey, where you had year-long work stoppages, and you went sort of down that hardline route. That's one sort of major avenue. The other major avenue is what the NFL did in 1993, and basically have the grand bargain, where they came in with a salary cap, but the players on the other side got unrestricted free agency for the first time, and you had the Reggie White deal and all that sort of thing. So you basically have the carrot or the stick, essentially. And if baseball were to go down the carrot route, one interesting idea I've heard, I have no idea whether the players would ultimately go for this, is really change the levers of when arbitration and free agency start. In particular, in right now, uh, arbitration begins like after the fourth year and then after the seventh year for free agency. If you move those sliders back, you had a cap, but move those sliders back, where now a player, instead of really hitting free agency once in their career and having one big payday, potentially could get two. And you essentially have a player, particularly if they come up into the major leagues at 21, 22, get hit free agency at, say, 26, 27, and then do it again at like 31 years old. Maybe that's the grand bargain. Again, I have no idea if the players would actually go for that, but that is an idea I have heard in terms of making the carrot end of this work.
It would feel to me like nobody would have the appetite for war, but what do I know, right?
Well, again, the macro indices around the game in terms of revenue, viewership, attendance, they're all really good. And there much, we're old enough to remember what happened in 94 and 95. And it took a lot of things like Cal with the streak to bring fans back. And that was going to be a multi-year thing. And it really still kind of was, but accelerated in a lot of ways by Cal, by the Yankees dynasty, by McGuire Sosa, and they basically getting fans back over a 3-4 year period what would have otherwise probably been 10 plus. And if they do this thing and they're out for an extended period of time, we could be looking at again many, many years in terms of bringing fans back.
Yeah, I don't know where young people are, Eric, but and I'm an old guy at this point, but when Ryan Mountcastle's making $8 million a year, why does he want to walk off the job or be locked out? You know what I mean? Like, there's a point for me where, like, this particular group of young men probably don't have the same appetite that Andy Messersmith or Kurt Flood had.
You bring up a fantastic point on two levels here. The last deal in 22, the executive subcommittee of the union, which is made up of your union player leaders, made up of veterans, they recommended not taking the deal. The rank and file overruled them, and that's how that thing got done. So prior, there was
Rank
already
and
a
file.
lesson.
What's the average player make? 3.5 million, 4 million. What's the
Yeah,
average?
that's yeah,
It's a big,
averages.
big number.
Yeah, average is around 4 now. But your guys that are more in that 15, 20 million plus range, they were recommending to not take the 2022 deal. And the younger guys, the lower paid guys, in greater numbers said do take the deal, and that's how they ended up getting back to work. So based off of that, Rob Manfred has been spending a lot of time in player meetings, and this whole past
Yeah,
year
and the
he's
old guys were
done.
telling me to get the hell out, right? Like, they didn't
Oh
want to
yeah,
hear it.
and
Yeah.
so yeah, had the whole dust up with Bryce Harper and all of that. But you could very well see a situation like that rise up again, where your guys with 5 years of less of major league experience go for something in a way that the veterans do not.
Eric Fisher is here. We're talking war, peace, and baseball. He's with Front Office Sports. He does the business of sports, but we're primarily focused on baseball here, and primarily, I think, on the Orioles and the market. What is the market when you clearly indicate some owners are like, we're going out. We're going to break these MFers, and there's going to be a strike. I'm going to prepare for war. I'm going to spend this off season or shed this off season in a way that suits my payroll, and I don't need to make the playoffs next year. I don't need to, we can go with like the old Andy McPhail line to Mike Flanagan, which was, why feed them steak when they'll eat when they'll eat hamburger? You know what I mean? We don't need to feed them filet mignon. And I don't know that the Orioles people, I don't know what their philosophy is, which is half the problem. We suffered that through Angelos, which was, we don't know what crazy ish he's thinking about today. I thought these people would be smarter and more in tune with, like, and when I met Rubenstein, and I did meet him a year ago, I don't know if you know this, Eric, I met him a year ago, night before Trump got reelected. I was out at the temple in at Beth Tefillo. He spoke literally the night before the elections. A lot of Israel stuff, but it was, baseball. He's signing balls, whatever. I met him, I shook his hand, and I said to him, Mr. Rubenstein, there's been a lot of trauma here. He turned like he didn't hear me, and that was the end of me. And I'm like, and this was a couple of weeks after the stadium was empty for the playoff games. And so that was, and then they finished in last place since then. So, and he gave a bobblehead out since then. I look at this and say, I don't know where the Orioles are on that, but if they are under these crazy people are going to shut the sport down next year, how are we going to manage that financially in a year where we're not selling tickets, we're not selling sponsorships? Yeah, I go on my LinkedIn, they're trying to hire people day after day after day, and it's Christmas time, and they're not selling any of their tickets. I know for a fact that the sales are awful for the suites because they're going out in the market with this premium. They think people want to spend more for hot dogs and beer than they're already spending. They haven't been to Baltimore. Like, I don't know who they think their market is, but like, they're confused about a lot. I don't know where they would sit in all of this, but I have to think, and that's why I brought this up in the beginning. There's no revenue. There's no media deal. The Masson thing's up in the air, as you pointed out. The Nats were for sale. They're not for sale. Sports going under in 6 months or 8 months. We're going to shut it down. Can we really win a World Series this year? I don't know. They have a new manager. They have all of these things and moving parts. But I would think the really rich guys, Arrighetti and Rubenstein, look at this thing and say, There could be utter war in 9 months here. And I don't know that we thought about that 2 years ago when we bought into this. And now we have to figure out which side we're going to sit on in this thing that they don't really have a big vote in. You know what I mean? Like, if this thing's going to happen, if it's willed to happen, the players are giving a middle finger and just going to go, then there's going to be war, right? And I would think all of these owners, as the winter meetings happen, and the fans here and everywhere, want their owners to get in and invest, other than in Sacramento, of course. Um, I'm also a pragmatist and a business owner and saying there's so much uncertainty in the sport right now that I don't know that how they would think about it, how they would perceive it in Baltimore.
Yeah, and again, that gets back to my point is that they need owning a sports team is retail politics, and you may not, plenty of other owners who are out there a lot, and you may not necessarily agree with everything that they say and do, but at least you know where they stand. And the fact that you're saying I don't know where they stand and you're there every day, that strikes me as a big problem.
Not to them, though, not to sports in general in communicating with their fan bases, right? I mean, we have a website for that. Go there, and everything we want to tell you, we'll tell you. Anything else is a lie, like Justin Tucker, for as an example here. So, I mean, there really is a synapse there with a baseball franchise here that's trying to make his way. Because as you've pointed out, if you're comparing yourself to other places where it is successful, you're doing it wrong. You know what I mean? Because you're not them. You're not. This isn't Cal and Frank and Brooks and Boog anymore, and people are just going to roll out the ball and opening day is going to be sold out, or that opening day is even a premium thing. And every time Katie Griggs opens her mouth, Eric, honestly, she only talks about one thing: the All-Star game. That's going to save them. That's going to do it. Everybody's going to just run and give them hundreds of thousands of dollars for sponsorships to get 2 tickets to an All-Star game that you can buy the night of the game for $200 every year, everywhere it goes. So it really is I'm giving you what their messaging is, and I listen to all of them. I listen more than their fans do. I go seek it out and pay $100 to hear them speak because I am really trying to figure this out because it's been my life's work. And at some point, I really thought when all this was over and you and I were done bickering about all of the mass and money and Angelo's, that there would at least be something that smelled like something better. And I can't honestly say they're in last place. Nobody's going to the games. They're arrogant, obstinate, and out to
And as I
lunch.
was starting to say, the whole division, not just Toronto, because Toronto's a power now, but the Yankees and the Red Sox are trying to load up, and the Rays are under new ownership. That division which was already very competitive, is only getting tougher.
The Dylan Cease thing, you see that as the beginning of what the Blue Jays may spend in the next couple months.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And they just picked up this guy who was the most valuable player of the Korean League. And there's more, and all the big guys are still out there. And obviously they're not going to get all the big guys, but your Kyle Tuckers and your Kyle Schwarbers and all those and Cody Bellingers, all those guys are still out there. And yeah, there's a lot more moves from the Blue Jays coming. And again, a lot of this starts right from the very top because what Rogers Communication has done is they now all own all of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment as well. So basically, they own most all of the teams in Toronto and a bunch of other assets, sports assets around Canada. They've got the net, they've got the RSN, they've got facilities, they've got naming rights on facilities that they don't own. They've got all these assets, and they basically put all this sports stuff under one giant umbrella, and they're making it a focal point of the entire company. Now they're also a huge communications business, and they've got cable business and mobile business and all that. But the sports part of this at a very high corporate level, as one of the largest companies in all of Canada, sports sits at the center of that, and the Blue Jays sit at the center of the sports.
You know who's really happy about that? Geddy Lee. Because Geddy Lee has a better chance to win than I do right now. Eric Fisher
Well,
is here.
as a fellow lifelong Rush guy, I was very happy for him, and I
Well,
saw him up at the games there, and he's with his family and his grandson taking in the games, and it was a personal thing for him, but also a family thing for him, and that's the great thing about baseball is how it spans generations. And yes, we love the music, but we also love how he loves the game and how it connects his generations too.
That look on his face when they were going to the World Series when the ball
It's
got hit.
pure. It's just totally pure.
Well, and his donations to the Negro Baseball Museum and Library in Kansas City and stuff. But more than that, it's just like as a fan in Baltimore, I'm wondering like when my last name's Aparicio. I come at this honest. Like so. You and I have been at this a long time. I wish I had better news. I hope to come back to you at some point around spring training. And we're talking about them doing something, and that's like Baltimore Street to do. When are they going to do something? And they spent 28 million on a relief pitcher. They've made parts of the team better. The Rodriguez thing is strange, right? You would agree with that.
Yeah. But again, this gets back to my bigger point that it's not on the fans, that the Orioles, like any other team, they're selling the product. So make something that the fans want to get engaged with, make them believe that this is not just for now, but a sustained thing. And I tell you, the tenor will change. But again, that one great year that you had a couple years ago, it proved to be a flash in the pan. Right now, it just like, it was a temporary sugar high. And what will help change the oxygen around this whole conversation is moving past the sugar high into, okay, this is going to be a for real sustained thing.
And it's going to be very hard to talk about that with labor problems. I mean, we're going to bore the hell out of everybody every time we get together talking about, like, is there going to be an end of the season? Is who's going to walk in, who's going to walk out, who's going to blink, all of that stuff. And I'd like to do that from the perch of, I don't know, the pennant race somewhere in July or August, but we'll see. Eric Fisher's here. Talk about front office sports engagement. Yeah, what have you been writing about lately? Because we just did a whole 30 minutes on baseball, but you do a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of business going on around the NFL and
Yeah,
affects the Ravens.
you bring up the NFL. Great point. I've been doing a lot of stadium work lately. That the command, I was down in my old stomping grounds, do on a lot of the approval stuff for the Commanders Stadium, and that's off and running now, and that's going to open in 2030.
That's at
The
RFK site, right?
on the RFK site. It's going to
Okay.
be great. The Browns are building out in the suburbs. They've now worked out all of their parameters. They've got a new stadium going. The Chiefs are trying to decide which side of the Kansas Missouri line are they gonna renovate Arrowhead Stadium or build a new place on either side of the border. Chicago's going through their deliberations. The Bears are trying to get something done. We have construction already going with the Titans and the Bills. So I've been doing a lot of NFL stadium work lately.
Well, the Buffalo thing. I mean, that's their Titans have a new crib, right?
Yeah,
They're
under construction.
yeah, and they're going to get a Super Bowl there, and they're going to do it all up at some point, right?
Well, I don't have to tell you about Nashville. So, people are going to want to go there for those big events.
Not me. I'm going to go where the rock and roll is. And, I really feel bad. If I get Getty on, I'm going to say, dude, this tour is great news for all of us. But the night that the Blue Jays win the World Series, you might be on stage in Portland or something, right? Like they booked the tour right into October and November. So that's good for me. It's good for us. Might not be good for Getty and his grandkid.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was looking at the dates, and then I'll be there for one of the New York shows, and where I'm at. But
I
I'm
might
not
be
sure.
like a deadhead next year. I may just cancel Baltimore Positive and just go on the road with Getty and Alex. I mean, that's just, if I get the opportunity to do that, I'm going to do
Yeah,
that.
although you might need $1.8 billion. Speaking of big money, speaking of the big money,
I'll be sneaking in the back door. Don't worry about it, man. I'll find my way. Don't you worry.
there you go. Big
Eric
money and
Fisher,
finding
old
my
school.
way.
Man, we're going to recite the words of the Red Barchetta the next time we get together. But for now, we'll just do YYZ.
Yeah,
Eric Fisher is here. I am here. He's in front office sports. Hey, man, baseball game. Maybe you and me. Maybe a hot dog with some proper ketchup and relish on it. What do you think?
and a crab cake.
You're going to join me in Fadley's, are you? Don't make promises you're not going to keep, because the new Fadley's at Lexington Market is there for you before games. I do it all the time, so we can we'll organize the ships to meet somewhere
We got to
over a
make it
proper
happen.
milkshake and a crab cake. Eric Fisher's here. He's front office sports. Always a pleasure to talk baseball with people I like and know. Actually, Dan Connolly, former of the Sun, I've been texting him. He's got like a day job now. He's out of it. And I text him. I'm like, I have so few people that I love having on who know baseball so well that we can talk and actually educate people. And I always feel that way, not only about Eric Fisher, but Barry Bloom's coming on next week. So I get all my mafia getting together here in the off season to be at
One
the
of my
winter meetings.
oldest and dearest friends.
Well, I don't know. I put the two of you together, man. I shrink in there for baseball knowledge, but I try to keep up and counterpunch with you guys.
Well, Boomski's been at it for a lot longer than I have. He's forgotten more than I know. So,
I always give him a hard time about having Baseball Digest when I was a boy and seeing his name in the bylines and always wanting to grow up and be Barry Bloom. I do that with Howard Balzer too because I got Football Digest too. So,
yep,
it's great having my heroes and legends come on the show, and they're yours too. So it's even
yep.
better. He is Eric Fisher. I am Nestor. It's baseball season always here. Just ask Luke; he'll tell you. We're Baltimore positive. Stay with us.